Hello everyone, welcome to What If Quirkless Deku Awaken Super Saiyan Powers Part 2. Before we start, please go support Silverlion 12k for writing that awesome fanfic. Chapter 9. I was at the training grounds for hours trying to activate my limit breaker and power up, which proved to be useless. For some odd reason they don't work. I dropped to my knees feeling frustrated. Why? Why doesn't it work? I was punching the ground in frustration, making my knuckle bleed. Fine, I will force everything out. I stood up firm to the ground, tucked my elbows in, tightened my fists and crouched down a little. I felt something in my head preventing me, but I shook the feeling off. Air guy started screaming, trying to power up, but felt both my techniques being pushed. I started to feel the power surging throughout my body. The ground was shaking dramatically like an earthquake, shaking all the fake building around me, making them crumble. The floor was steaming from the heat while some rocks and debris levitated and disintegrating. I yelled one last time, feeling my max, but in all of a sudden great pain like in the USJ attack. I groaned in pain, falling to my knees, releasing both of my techniques, while my vision was blacking out and soon I fell unconscious. I was surrounded by bright light and lots of open locks around me. Hello Izuku, we meet again. That voice, the multiple voices, the ones from the USJ attack. Who are you? You never told me your names. And what just happened to me? Why couldn't I use my techniques? I asked curiously and frustrated. We are different, but we are one. We have names, but only one. We are the legends that stood before you. We are the limit breakers. You are same as us, and we are same as you. You surprised us, Izuku. You survived the full power, and after you've been paralyzed you still fought. They said to me, which made sense in a way. So what about this power? Why can't I use it? The reason is simple, you are not ready. You see, you kind of surprised us in unlocking the full power of Limit Breaker. Not everyone unlocked this power, some people even died using it, but you are different. You usually unlock it in about 20 years or so, but it seems you cut a shortcut. You have two choices to make. We can either lock most of these locks to restore your power like before USJ, or you wait until your body adapts to it, if it adapts. We never seen a person which could use the full power like you did and don't know how will it adapt. We can see that you gain heightened senses and bigger build to hold the power, but if you couldn't control it, your body ain't done yet. They spoke, making sense a little. By any chance would you know how long will it take to adapt? We're not sure, may take months or years. Our time is running out, so what would you like to choose? They spoke, making me think. I would like to keep it unlocked and see the difference it will make, and well, I've been without this power most of my life, so it wouldn't kill to wait a little longer. I said. Very well, good luck to you Izuku in achieving your dreams. He's going to be a great legend when he grows up, and he might defeat the great evil which is to come. They thought. I woke up and was blinded by the light from the sun. So it's morning, huh? I struggled to get up, all my body was sore. I took my time looking around me and was shocked. Did I do this? I looked around and saw the floor disintegrated all around me, the fake buildings all crumbled down to dust, all reached out throughout the whole training ground. If this is the full power that I can't control yet, what will it be when I can? I said, dumbfounded and shocked. I made my way to the dorms. When I walked in through the doors I seen everyone eating breakfast. Izuku, where have you been? You never came back yesterday. Momo asked worriedly. I was training and passed out, so yeah, I'm fine. I said, making Momo relieved. We then hear a door bust right open, gaining our attention. It was All Might and Izawa. Hello kids, we're here to figure out if any of you used the ground beta. All Might asked, shocking me. Why, is there a problem? Kirishima asked. No, there's no problem, someone just destroyed the whole training ground into dust and we want to figure out who. Izawa asked in a sarcastic tone. I raised my hand hesitantly. Well, I guess it was me. I said with a nervous smile. Izawa and All Might were shocked. Young Midoriya, since when are you this tall and built up? And why did you destroy the whole training ground? But the big question is how? He asked. Well, long story short, after I unlocked my full potential after the USJ attack, my body was adapting to my new power, but I can't control it yet. Yesterday I went out to train, but I couldn't use my power. Because of my frustration I was forcing my full power, which you saw what it did. I've got to give time for my body to adjust. I said, shocking my classmates and the teachers. Okay then, don't worry about it, we'll fix it right up. Will you be still participating in the sports festival? All Might asked. Yeah, I never go back on my word. I said, making him smile. We bid our farewells and they left. As soon as they did, my friend erupted with question about my power and concern that I couldn't use it. When everything quieted down I made myself breakfast and went to train. I guess there's nothing to do, just wait and train. I thought to myself. Time skipped towards the sports festival. We were at the sports festival in our PE kits waiting in the waiting room to be called up. During the 2 weeks I worked at my jobs and visited the orphanage, which shocked all the kids of how I grown so tall. I met Momo's parents, and I think they like me, especially her father. We went for couple of drinks or so. Me and Momo went on couple of dates which made us happier. Throughout the 2 weeks my hair turned black and now it's spiky, but there was also some pain in my lower back and sometimes the pain throughout my entire body like my blood is burning. Hey Midoriya, I was interrupted from talking with Momo and all the other guys. Todoroki, what is it? I asked but didn't see any emotion in his face. I believe I am stronger than you. He said bluntly, shocking others but me and Bakugo, which grew a smirk on his face. I knew there's something behind this. Whoa man, don't say that. Kirishima said before I cut him off. It's okay Kirishima, so Todoroki, is this some sort of declaration of war? I asked. You could say that, but don't be hoping on winning cause I will be on top. He said. Hey Todoroki, Izuku is much better than you could ever be, Momo spat out, but I stopped her before she said anything else. I gave her a sweet smile, showing it was alright. Well Todoroki, I wouldn't mind a rival, we will push each other, so give it your all, and I mean it your all, not half of your power. I said, making him angrier. I put out my hand for a handshake, but he walked off. Hey Deku, you should watch your back. Bakugo shouted out and walked off. We were announced to head out into the arena. When the introductions of all classes were made, I seen the very person I missed come out. I started waving at Namuri Midnight and she noticed, which lit her up and showed a genuine smile. Everyone looked at me weird, especially Mineta, which was crying, but also felt a menacing aura staring at me. When I looked into that direction, I saw an angry Momo burning with rage. I chuckled nervously while holding my hands in defeat. Midnight announced the representative of the school to make a speech, which was Bakugo. He walked up and looked at me with a smirk. Oh no, I vow that I will be the number one. He said boldly, which made an uproar from all the classes, and all in class 1 were shocked. Kirishima was calling him manly like always, and all the others were scolding him. You are all my stepping stones to becoming a number one, you hear me Deku, he spat, looking at me. Why does he have to involve me in it? I thought, while gaining the attention of my class. When it was announced that we were doing a obstacle race, we got ready at the tunnel, which looked cramped. When it starts everything will be too tight to move through, and Todoroki is first, so he might be planning on doing something. Hey Momo, would you like for me to help you? I asked, gaining her attention, but surprisingly she refused. Listen Izuku, I need to show that I'm worth something, and I want to prove to you. She said, and I only nodded. I readied myself. I looked at the walls, which could probably help me. When the signal went off I sprinted across the wall fast, all my senses were on point. I jumped off the wall at the people's shoulders, sprinting across them. I smelt something cold like ice. So is that what you're planning? I thought, and seen the entrance get blocked by ice. I quickly launched myself through a hole and slid down on it, accelerating, passing my class. It's too slippery, I said to myself. I crouched down a little and concentrated on my senses. I felt the floor with my feet, my eyes adjusting on the spots I can ran on, my hearing adjusting to where my competitors were. I calmed down and launched myself off the ground. I was pushing off the bits and pieces for accelerating. I was ice skating, quickly catching up to Todoroki, which seen me and gone mad. I heard some people pass the ice and gaining a little. I spotted robots which were huge, 4 or 5 stories high. I seen Todoroki freezing the robots, but my eyes spotted that these robots were frozen in unbalanced position, which made me run faster even more. I heard some announcement from President Mick, but I didn't pay attention. I was close to the robots when they started to fall. I was sprinting now on solid grounds, focused on getting through the legs in time. Izuku Midoriya is heading straight for the falling 0-pointer, I heard President Mick. Everyone was shocked, as if I was suicidal. The robots were close to the ground, and me, I quickly took advantage of my momentum and slid under them. There was a loud bang of the 2 robots, and everyone gasped. Midoriya, Izuku, my classmates were shouting. What's this? Midoriya has made it through and catching up fast to the number 1 Todoroki, President Mike shouted. There were some small robots which I dodged and made to the second obstacle to fall. I quickly glanced at Todoroki, which was using ice to slide on. I then proceeded on looking for a best way to get over, and only thought of one. I quickly turned around and took some steps, seeing some people made it here, some of my class too. Midoriya is walking away from the next obstacle for some reason. President Mike said. This is crazy, why am I doing this? I said to myself, gaining attention. I quickly turned around and sprinted to the edge. What's this? Midoriya is sprinting to the edge of the fall, President Mike shouted out. I leapt towards the wires and I landed on this thin wire. My senses kicked in. The feel of touch and sight of my goal. I crouched a little, preparing to sprint across the wire. I launched off and was running like a ninja, shocking the audience and the people behind me. I made it to my next obstacle, the minefield. I saw Todoroki taking his time, carefully running past them. I looked behind and saw Bakugo flying at insane speed. Bucket, improvise, I shouted out and sprinted right into the minefield. I was stepping on the mines to make them launch me forward. One by one I was accelerating and gaining fast on Todoroki. I heard a big blast behind and soon saw Bakugo next to me and Todoroki. I didn't pay much attention and increased my speed, passing them, making them stop fighting each other and start running. Todoroki was using ice while Bakugo using his explosions to launch him further. I made it past the minefield and started sprinting at my fullest. My feet felt like they were about to collapse from the constant force under my feet from the mines. It was a close finish. I came first and not long after Todoroki, following with Bakugo, which was mad. Then soon everyone started to show up. I caught sight of Momo all exhausted. I walked up to her waving. "Please Izuku, get him off," she said in a tiring voice which made me confused. I looked behind her and saw Mineta onto her back, which made me furious. "Worth it," was the only thing he said before I took him off her by his head, crushing it, receiving shouts from pain. "Ever lay your hands on her, you regret it," I said with a threatening tone, making him shiver. After a small break, it was announced we were going to do a cavalry battle, but what shocked me was the menacing smile on Midnight. "No, don't. I know that smile. The first place has 1,000,000 points," she said, and there was a sudden spike of intense auras. I looked around and saw everyone was staring at me. "If you want to play this game, then fine. I hope you all are as strong as these stares you're giving me. Show me what you have," I said, shocking the crowd and audience that I wasn't affected by them. Despite everyone challenging him, he showed no weakness against it. All Might thought. Everyone was picking teams, but most people avoided me as I was the top target. In the end it was me, Uraraka, Tokoyami and one from the support department, Mei Hitsumi. Time skipped to when Iida was about to use Recipro Burst. I saw Iida preparing for his move, which I never seen before. My eyesight skyrocketed, so I would be able to see as Iida's quirk is around speed. In the matter of second I caught a glimpse of a hand reaching for my headband, which I quickly dodged, and when I looked back I saw Todoroki's team behind us and Iida's exhaust pipes overheat. "Nice move, Iida, I had to put everything into my eyesight to see your speed," I said with a smile. They prepared to attack again and so did Bakugo, but the time ran out and my team scored first. The matches were announced. I was against Shinsu, the one who declared war against our class. "Izuku, good luck out there," Momo said, and I pecked her on the lips. "Thanks, cheer for me out there. By the way, you looked cute in the cheerleader costume," I said, making her blush from the compliment and embarrassment. Me and Shinsu were called up. I made it to the arena, seeing him on the opposite side. I can't underestimate him. We have Izuku Midoriya, who won previous matches, and we didn't see any hint of his quirk on the other side. We have Hitachi Shinsu, who kept a low profile throughout the festival. Let's see who comes up to the top. Present Mick presented us. "Hey Midoriya, aren't you quirkless?" Shinsu said, and the match begun. I started to walk toward him cautiously, on guard, since I didn't know his quirk. "You should be lucky to still be alive after the USJ attack. I heard you had severe injuries," he said, which I didn't pay attention to. I was in the middle of the ring when something he said hit me hard. "Ow yeah Midoriya, how's your mother doing?" he said in a mocking tone which made me fill up with rage. I clanged my fists hard, making them bleed. I launched at him. "How dare you!" My body then froze in place, not listening to me. "Should I forgot to tell Midoriya about Shinsu's quirk," Ejiro said, gaining attention of everyone, asking what's his quirk. When I answered his question my mind blanked out and followed every command he said. "Now be a good quirkless boy and walk out the bound," Shinsu said, and my body turned around. "No, there's no way I'm losing to someone who bucks with my mind again," I shouted in my mind, and my body stopped moving. "What, walk out of the bound now?" Shinsu shouted out in fear. "No, there's no way I'm losing, especially to a guy who messes with my mind. Never again," I shouted, but I was keep fighting my body not to move. Everyone seen the struggle I was in. I felt sharp pain in my lower back. "Not now," I thought in my head. I tucked in my elbows and tried to push some power out. "Come on," I screamed, making the ring shake a little. "You might have invaded my mind and body, but there's something I always keep my word," I screamed out, making my body get engulfed with intense aura, giving off immense heat, making Shinsu back away. How he managed to spit out. "Don't underestimate an opponent, whether quirkless or not," I said as I quickly punched the air, making a gust of wind pressure hit Shinsu out of bound. I deactivated the power and collapsed to my knees, breathing heavily. Well, at least I didn't pass out this time, I said to myself. Izuku Midoriya wins the match, Midnight announced, and the crowd cheered. Time skip with All Might. "You wanted to see me, All Might?" I asked and saw All Might look hopeful. "Don't tell me. Young Midoriya, congratulations on your win. Did you adjust to your powers?" "No, not yet. That was just a drop of it I managed to bring out in a desperate time." "Is there a reason you called me?" "Listen, I was hoping you changed your mind about becoming my successor. Please, you're the best candidate I ever seen. You're even better than me when I was younger," he said desperately. "Listen, All Might, I already told you and tell you again, I don't need a quirk to become a hero, the next symbol of peace. I can become someone much greater than a quirk user. Don't you understand? I want to prove to people that quirkless are not some useless people, they can still achieve their dreams. When I get control over my powers, I'll show you, show all of them, prove them wrong, that quirkless can stand next to quirkful. There's other students here, which could be your successor and at UA. They will be more powerful than ever with your quirk. For example, Todoroki, he just needs to stop being so arrogant and refusing to use his left side, or Momo, who's trying her best to become a hero same as me. I finished and walked off angry. I was walking and felt something rubbing my leg, but there was no one by my side. I went to a bathroom and pulled my trousers down, only to see a monkey tail reaching to my knees. What the I grabbed my tail in my hand to feel if it was real, and it was. Is this the changes they were talking about? I asked myself. But what do I do now that I have a tail? I asked myself, concerned while seeing my tail wiggle about. Well, I guess there's no other way. I tarred a hole in my trousers for my tail to show. Todoroki wanted to speak with me, so we went into the hallway to speak. Listen, Midoriya, I've seen you and All Might talking most of the time, so tell me, are you some sort of a love child of his? At this I burst out laughing. And I thought you had no humor. Oh, you're serious? Why would you want to know my relationship with me and him? I asked. It just gives me more of a reason to beat you. You see, I got this scar from my mother because she said my left side was unbearable to look at as it reminds her of my father. I neglect my father and I want to show him I don't need his quirk to be a hero. With that he left, but not before looking at the tail, but he shrugged it off and I left too. Time skipped to my battle. I comforted Momo on her loss, telling her she done as best as she could and this gives her the reason to get better, but she notices my tail wiggling around. Izuku, would you mind explaining me why do you have a tail? She asked, looking confused. Ow, that, well, I guess that's one of my changes my body did to control my powers, I think, but don't you think it looks cool? I asked her, getting fired up. I guess it looks cute on you, she said, making my tail wiggle like the dog's about to get a snack. She laughs at that. I guess someone likes the compliment, she says playfully. I think I better go now, I said to her and wished me luck. Now it was my fight with Todoroki. I was making my way to the ring, but I was stopped by Endeavor. Hey Midoriya, Endeavor said, gaining my attention. I want you to make my son use his left side, he said in a commanding tone. Who do you think Todoroki is? Some puppet? Is your son not some weapon you created to beat All Might? I said, making him angry, and started to make my way. I will make him use it, but not for you, but for himself, I said and walked away. I made my way to the ring and heard some people talking about me if I had my tail before. On one side we have Shoto Todoroki, which is the son of number 2 hero Endeavor with an amazing quirks. On the other side we have Izuku Midoriya, who impressed us with a show of his power. Wait a minute, is that a tail he has? Present Mick pointed out the obvious, not believing his eyes. Wait, why do I feel like I know what's happening to me? My dark spiky hair, a monkey tail, don't tell me I'm turning into a Saiyan, I screamed in my head. But my tail is short, maybe it didn't grow out yet, I thought. Ready, fight. As soon as midnight announced the fight I could see and hear a wave of ice coming straight for me. Well, got to get close and strike fast. I avoided the incoming ice by dashing to the set and sprinting at inhuman speed. I was closing in on Todoroki, but he sent out another ice which I jumped over and kicked him in the chest, making him fall on his back. Are you thinking of defeating me with just half your strength? I'm not even using my power, I taunted him. Chapter 10. Izuku and Todoroki were staring each other down. Did my dad bribe you or something? Todoroki shouted out and launched at Izuku, which seemed slower. Izuku sidestepped Todoroki, grabbed his left arm and took him down to the ground. Your ice having effect on you, Todoroki? Izuku whispered into Todoroki's ear before letting go off Todoroki and making some space. I ain't using his quirk, Todoroki shouts out, furious, and rushed Izuku, only to receive a punch to the face faster than he could detect, sending him close to the out of bounds. Who the hell told you it's his quirk? There's no such things as his or hers quirks, only yours. It's your quirk, not his, Izuku shouted, making Todoroki fall into thought. How could I forget? Todoroki thought. You do want to be a hero, don't you? Izuku shouted out, making Todoroki think of his mother's words. Izuku felt a change in temperature. Everyone saw Todoroki get an engulf with flames on his left side and ice on his right. Izuku smiled that he could help out Todoroki. Is that what you want, my full power? You should be crazy to help your enemy and smile in the face of defeat, Todoroki shouts out. Full power, huh? Let's see how. Izuku cut himself off when there was a huge pain in his head, making him grasp it. He collapsed to his knees, shocking the audience. He felt his tail getting longer and thicker, his whole body was boiling, his fists were inching for a fight, while his body hungered for adrenaline in his vein. Izuku stood up while grinning. Time to get the show on the road, Izuku shouted before tucking his elbows in and powering up, his both techniques activated. So they fused together. Izuku thought while making the whole podium shake with his power, but then stopped. This should be enough. Izuku said while tightening his right fist. "You ready?" Izuku shouted, making Todoroki grin in response. Izuku launched a Todoroki while he sent a wave of ice at Izuku which he flew over. He saw Todoroki preparing his left hand for a fire attack. Izuku cocked his right hand back, creating an energy blast size of his hand. "They taking it too far, one of them might not make it." Midnight and Cementus shouted out using their quirks. "Thank you, Midoriya," Todoroki said faintly before their powers connected, creating a huge blast which shook the whole podium and blew some audience away. The heat was reaching everyone, making them sweat. When it quieted down, present Mick spoke out. "Geez, Erasure Head, what do you teach your class?" he asked rhetorically. The temperature in the arena was cooled down and rapidly increased. He said in a bored tone. When the dust and steam cleared out, they saw Izuku standing in the arena without a sleeve which was blown off, breathing heavily, and Todoroki out of bounds. "Izuku Midoriya wins the match," Midnight announced, making the whole podium cheer. Izuku walked up to Todoroki, which was struggling to stand up, and he offered his hand, which surprisingly Todoroki took. "It was a nice match, Todoroki. I hope we'll do it again when we are at our fullest, friend," Izuku said with an eye smile, making Todoroki show a small smile. "Friend, huh?" Todoroki thought while walking out, following by Izuku, which was flicking his tail around. Those two are something else. How powerful would they be at their fullest? Best match ever. Where something's audience spoke out. In the different universe. "You telling me someone became a Saiyan? I wanna fight him so bad now." A mysterious muscular guy in an orange and blue guy said, excited. "Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying," some tall guy looking like an angle with a staff said. "It can't be, no one becomes a Saiyan just like that, they should be born Saiyan, that's blasphemy," someone else shouted out, who was shorter than the first with spiky black hair and an angry look. "I don't know, but this Saiyan might not live long. He will have some visitors soon, from our universe," the angle said. Back to the universe. Before Izuku could get into the waiting room, someone grabbed his tail, softly stroking him, making him moan. "Wow, I didn't know it was sensitive," Momo said seductively. Izuku pulled his tail away and wrapped it around his waist. "Don't do that, it's sensitive," he said while regretting pulling his tail away. "If I didn't know you better, I would have thought you liked that," she said playfully, making Izuku blush. "It was nice what you did. You helped Todoroki with his left side. I'm proud of you," she said before kissing him. When they separated, they looked at each other's lustful eyes. "So I'm guessing I'm going against Bakugo in the finales. I can't wait," Izuku said with a cheering voice, surprising Momo. "You can't wait, huh? Just be careful out there," she said worriedly. "Hey, don't worry, it's only a match, nothing serious," he said, making Momo relieved a bit. Now Izuku was standing opposite to Bakugo, which seemed angry but also satisfied. "Finally, I can beat you in front of these people to show that you're just an excuse for a hero and use your full power," Bakugo shouts out, making Izuku grin. "Beware of what you wish for, Bakugo," Izuku said in a mocking tone, infuriating Bakugo. "Start," Midnight announced, and they both launched at each other, their fists connected. Bakugo used his explosion to deal more damage, whereas Izuku used his energy blast, and the exchange of hits begun. They kept on exchanging hits, dodging and blocking. Bakugo went for a punch in the guts, which Izuku dodged, and went for a flying kick to the head, which Bakugo ducked under, and went for a swipe under Izuku's feet, making him fall. As soon as Izuku lost balance, he shot out a blast out of his hand, pushing Bakugo away a couple of feet. Bakugo went for a smokescreen. Izuku's vision was blocked by the smoke, but he sensed Bakugo about to blast his back, which he responded with a side kick to the gut, sending him out of the smoke, surprising the audience. Then the smoke cleared with a gust of wind pressure which Izuku created. He was staring down Bakugo, which looked pissed. Izuku readied his stance and taunted Bakugo to come at him. Bakugo blasted himself straight at Izuku, but then changed his trajectory, flying above Izuku and blasting his back, making his stumble forward. Bakugo smirked and blasted a barrage of his explosions at Izuku. After what seemed Izuku lost, the smoke cleared to reveal Izuku holding his hands in X shape without his shirt, revealing his top half of his muscular body, making some girls blush in the audience. That was exhilarating, Bakugo, but I don't suppose this was your finishing blow, so why not go full out? Izuku asked with a smirk, making Bakugo smirk too. "You are done for," Bakugo screamed, blasting himself into the sky and using his explosions to make him spin. That would be trouble, Izuku thought while powering up, making the ground shake again. The intense aura was making the arena steam from the heat. "I could dodge, but that will make Bakugo mad, which we don't want. With my current skill, I only have one move," Izuku thought while moving his hands towards his right hip, forming a ball. Izuku started chanting while seeing Bakugo spinning at incredible speed, making a tornado full of smoke. There was a ball of energy in his palms shining, surprising the audience. "Ha-mi Howitzer," Bakugo and Izuku chanted before both of them produced an insane amount of light. Impact. Both of them finished releasing devastating blasts that connected and shook the whole arena, breaking it, sending some audience back by the sheer power of the blast. They saw the beam from Izuku blow the explosion and Bakugo away, hitting the wall out of bounds. Izuku was standing still, breathing heavily with sweat covering his whole body, showing his muscular feature. Bakugo, you okay there? Izuku shouts out only to receive a growl of pain. Yeah, he's okay. He said before stumbling a little, collapsing to his knees. Izuku Midoriya wins the sports festival, Midnight announced, and made the whole podium scream and cheer. Chuckle, I won. Izuku said happily, looking at the stands and seeing Momo look at him with a proud smile. He stood up and lifted his fist up, making the crowd cheer even more. He looked where All Might sat and grinned at him. Did he just copied my victory stance? All Might though. Now there was a ceremony. Todoroki was third, Bakugo was second, and Izuku first with a bright and proud smile. Midnight was announcing who will be giving medals, and All Might came in before his introduction, making it awkward. He was giving medals to Todoroki, then Bakugo saying he done good, and surprisingly he wasn't mad. Then he came up to Izuku. Young Midoriya, you done well, keep on working hard and you'll become a marvelous hero. All Might said. Thanks, All Might. Izuku said before accepting the medal and looking out in the crowd, seeing Momo smile, and so did Midnight. PTSS, All Might, how was the stance, like it? Izuku said in a mocking tone, whispering into All Might's ear. The next day Class 1 were waiting for Izawa, which came in with all familiar bored look. Okay class, today you'll be choosing your internships. He said while pulling up a screen with offers, Izuku first, Todoroki second and Bakugo third. But before that you need hero names. He said, making the class erupt in excitement before he silenced them. By the way Midoriya, you are needed at the principal office. He said to Izuku. Oh okay. He said and left. He thought about why while realizing he was in front of the door to the principal. He knocked and heard a happy come in, which he stepped inside and saw Principal Nezu drinking tea. Please have a sit, would you like some tea? He asked, which Izuku politely declined. Okay, down to business, Midoriya, I've got a proposition to you. As you probably know that you are more powerful than most of the pro heroes, which makes some of your internships useless, for that I chose to suggest you to get temporary hero license and get some hero experience at Hosu City. Nezu said, brightening Izuku up. I would love that. When can I start? He asked. You will start at the beginning of the internships, and by the way, have you chose your hero name? He asked, curious, and yet something about that question was off. No, not yet. Why? He responded, making Nezu smirk. I thought you might have already had one, Limit Breaker. He said, shocking Izuku. But how? He stuttered on his words, panicking. It wasn't an easy job when it came to you, you always left the scene without a trace. But I connected the dots and here we are. I'm happy you chose the hero path. He said, smiling. Izuku was now sitting in his seat in class, thinking about his hero name. Should I reveal this? Villains will know me and fear me, but also target me. Izuku, your turn, Midnight shouts out, showing to the podium. He walks up to the podium with a blank slate and a marker. He stood there thinking. Izuku. Oh right. He started writing his name and stopped. Ugh, what the heck? He said before rubbing off the current name and placing the name he would proud of wearing, and showed it, shocking some his class. My hero name will be Limit Breaker. He said, making his class drop their jaws and Izawa shoot from his sleeping bag, disbelieving. You not saying your Kirishima started but that was cut off? Yep, I am the infamous vigilante, Limit Breaker. Izuku said before getting captured by Izawa. You kept slipping through my fingers, but why reveal this? He said seriously. Well, Principal Nezu found out and allowed me to reveal this if I pleased. He said, sweat dropped. After being questioned by everyone in class, Izuku was drained, sitting and eating dinner at the common area. So I guess I will be a temporary hero at Hosu City. He thought while eating fifth bowl of food. The time came for the internships, and Izuku spotted a difference with his looks. His hair was now standing up and thickened. His face was now more mature and much more masculine. His metabolism was higher than an average human, making him eat 10 times more, freaking out his classmates, but soon they got used to it. Bakugo was less angry with Izuku, but there was still some conflict, mostly rivalry. Good luck with your internship, Momo. Izuku said before kissing her. You too, be careful out there and come back safe. She said while waving a goodbye and entering the train. Izuku's train arrived and he walked in, taking a seat with his costume and his suitcase. He saw Iida with an angry look, sitting with his fists clenched. I can sense revenge from him, vengeance. It has to be because of his brother getting hurt by Hero Killer Stain. Izuku thought and walked up to him. Hey, Iida going to Hosu City too? Izuku said, trying to cheer up the mood. Yeah, he simply said. Izuku sat next to him, understanding his pain. Hey Iida, no meaning to pry, but are you heading to Hosu City for Stain? Izuku asked, making Iida flinch and get angry all of a sudden. Yeah, so what? You wouldn't understand, he spat out with pain in his voice. Listen Iida, I perfectly understand, I went through that, and let me tell you, nothing good is going to come out of it. Izuku said while looking out through the window. "Ow, so tell me what should I do," he spat out sarcastically. "I am not the one who should decide." Izuku stopped then looked at Iida. "You're the one who needs to decide which path you're walking. Whatever choice you make I'll be there to support you, but first think it through," Izuku said before walking back to his seat. When it was their stop they came outside to be greeted by the sunlight. "Okay, time to go to my renting apartment," Izuku thought and made his way. Izuku entered into a small simple apartment, having a kitchen with a table and a sofa, and lastly there was a separate room with a single bed. "I guess I'll go check out the city," he said to himself before throwing his suit on the sofa and taking his wallet and phone with him. He was walking down the sidewalk with casual clothing, gray t-shirt, blue jeans and gray sneakers. He used his tail like a belt around his waist. He was memorizing roads, pathways, alleyways and all different places to know in case of an emergency. He was finding out about villains' attacks and different gangs around the city from the shop owners. He then heard a loud explosion and shooting. He was adjusting his hearing and heard that there were cops surrounding the robbers, which he presumed. He quickly ran out of the shop and tried to fly, but he could fly far when he started to fall. Shit, he made contact with the floor and rolled out of it and started sprinting towards the area. He made it in time when he saw some officers injured and the robbers getting on black motorbikes. 3 bikes took off, but the 4th one was hit out of the seat by Izuku, knocking him out. "Quick, restrain him, I'll pursue them," Izuku shouted before taking the helmet off the robber and jumping on the motorbike. Let's put the theory to the test. He was cut short when he arrived the bike and shot off the ground. Right now the 3 robbers are speeding through the Hosu city, making their way to the bridge. "No, wait, there's someone else pursuing them," the reporter states. Izuku was speeding through the streets at high speed while maneuvering between cars and catching up with the robbers that made some car accidents. "Hey, there's a guy following us, get rid of him." They aimed their guns at Izuku and started firing. Crap, he started dodging some shots with his reflexes while gaining fast, but then some robbers shot some tires of the cars that were passing by making a huge blockage. Izuku had to take a turn and was now losing them. He made his way to the bridge and saw them on the bridge under him riding into a truck. "Ah shit, this dumb idea's of mine," he said to himself before doing a burnout facing the edge of the bridge where the robbers about to go under. "Is he about to do what I think?" the reporter said in disbelief. Then all of a sudden Izuku took off. He was nearing the edge and blasted himself off the ground with his energy blast flying over the railing. Everything was in slow motion for him. He looked to the side to see reporter helicopter filming him. He then looked down at the truck the robbers were in, coming in fast. He landed on the truck's trailer, sliding his bike to the stop, abandoning it. He powered up and punched the trailer, making a hole and ripping it out before jumping in. The robbers just stared at him in disbelief and shock. How did yo?" The robber was cut short. "Magic," Izuku said playfully before appearing in front of them and punching them one by one, knocking them out. He made his way to the front and saw the driver. "I would pull over if I were you," Izuku said before holding an energy blast in front of the driver's face, making him sweat. After the police made it, their robbers were all restrained and Izuku stood there holding a helmet under his armpit, waving. "Hey," he said before being interrupted as all the police officers draw their weapons and aimed at him. "Drop the helmet and put your hands up, you're under arrest for the illegal use of quirk," one of the officers shouted. Izuku placed the helmet on the floor gently and held his hand up. "Firstly, I am a hero in training with temporary hero licenses, officer, and second of all, I didn't use a quirk as I am quirkless," Izuku said, pulling out his licenses and smiling, making them all stand down. "Sorry about that, and thanks," officer said, not knowing his name. "Limit breaker," Izuku said, shocking the officers. "Limit breaker?" After a long explanation, Izuku made his way to the store, bought the groceries and went to his apartment. He cooked his meal for a family of 6 for him. He changed into his hero costume and looked in the mirror. He was wearing a black armored air suit which was flexible and bulletproof, black tactical gloves with reinforced knuckles, reinforced black pants, tactical boots and lastly a mask which covered his face from nose down and goggles, letting his hair flow. It was getting dark and he went out on patrol. He was walking on the roofs focusing on hearing any accidents. He looked up to the sky and saw multiple stars shine bright while the moon lit up the city. Only if Momo seen this, he thought before hearing screams in an alleyway. He quickly powered up and jumped from roof to roof Parker towards the screams. He jumped down an alleyway, landing on one of the perpetrators. He looked around and saw a gang there standing in the circle overlooking couple of girls. "Who are you?" one of them shouted out while the others brought out their weapons like baseball bats and knives while others prepared their quirks. Izuku just stayed quiet and looked at them carefully while still in the crouching position. "Tell us or else," the same guy shouted while feeling uneasy looking at Izuku's eyes which looked cold, terrifying. "Roses are red." Izuku started to talk in a very demonic and menacing tone, creeping everyone out while straightening himself up. "Violets are blue," he said while taking slow steps towards them, making them back away from the intense aura he was giving out. You'll be begging when I'm done with you, Izuku said while giving off killer intent, chalking people before disappearing, making all of them shocked and filled with fear. One by one they were disappearing, making everyone scream in fear. Looking around, some even ran for their life, but not very far before Izuku knocked them out. Izuku appeared in front of the leader, making him fall back and crawl back like a scared dog, while Izuku took slow steps. Please DD, don't kill me," he shouts out in fear while backing into a wall. Izuku walked up to him and crouched down, looking straight into his eyes, making him shiver. "Boo!" escaped Izuku's lips, making the leader passed out. "Well, that was unexpected," he said to himself while getting up and walking back to the girls. "Hey, you okay? Sorry to creep you out. The police should be here soon," he said while he took his mask off and smiled, ensuring them it was okay. The next day Izuku was walking through the city in his hero costume while having his mask down with his goggles. "We have a new hero on the job at Hosu City, which has captured 5 criminals after the bank was robbed and took down a gang at night, saving dozens of captives, and his name is Limit Breaker," the news reporter shouts out. "Geez, I'm famous now," Izuku thought before getting pulled by someone. He looked behind and saw a little kid and crouched down to his eyes level. "Hey kid, you need something?" Izuku asked with a smile. "See, could you give me your autograph? You the one from the sports festival, right, and the new hero, right?" he asked while looking nervous. "Yeah, it's me. I'll be in this city for a while, and of course you can. What's your name?" Izuku asked while taking the notebook and a pen. Jack Wesley," Jack said looking at Izuku. "Okay Wesley, all done," Izuku said before giving back the notebook back and ruffling his hair. "I've got to go now, see you around," Izuku said waving back at the kid. Izuku was now taking a break after stopping some thugs and doing autographs. "Today I've done dozens of autographs and didn't do a lot of heroic deeds. It's lame, I'm getting bored without a tough fight." And all of a sudden his apartment shook, making him shoot up from his sofa and look through the window. "And now Miss," Izuku asked himself while cursing himself mentally. "I just had to jinx it," he shouts while jumping out of his window, hovering a little to minimize the impact before running towards the scene. Izuku made to the scene and saw heroes trying to fight off the Naumas. One was muscular like from the USJ, one was skinny, while the other had wings. "Kid Jiao, Limit Breaker, we would love some assistance," one of the heroes shouted, making Izuku put his mask and goggles on. "Time for some fun," Izuku said while grinning and powering up. "I can't utilize my full power yet, so if these Naumas are near the one from USJ, I'm doomed." Chapter 11. The city was in complete chaos. It was burning with crumbling houses which were getting destroyed by Naumus. The pro heroes tried to stop them, but to no avail, not even putting a scratch on them. There was a sudden shaking in the air while some rocks levitated. "Everybody stay clear," Izuku shouted out before disappearing and appearing next to the muscular Naumu. He avoided a punch from the Naumu and swung a fist in Nauma's stomach, launching it into a building before sending some energy blasts, making the building fall on top of it. Then he jumped up towards the winged Naumu and axe kicked it down to the ground, making a crater before sending a barrage of energy blasts. When he landed, he couldn't react fast enough when the muscular Naumu punched him down into the ground and started to pummel him down into it. The shock waves from the punch were sending the pro heroes around back. Then there was last punch before Izuku caught both fists and started to stand back up again without his goggle and his mask. His costume was demolished with missing pieces while blood dripped down the side of his head and visible bruises on his body with multiple fractures. Everyone then heard a crack when Izuku squished Nauma's hands, breaking them, then swinging it over him down into the ground, making a crater. Then the positions changed. Izuku was releasing barrage of punches at the Naumu while powering up even more before it was knocked out. "That takes care of things," he said out loud while breathing heavily. He then heard a clinging sound like metal hitting metal. He looked all over the heroes and saw the hero which Iida and turned to, but Iida wasn't with him. "Don't tell me," Izuku thought before powering to the max and disappearing out of sight. Izuku was sprinting through the streets towards the sound from before. Then there was groan of pain making him go faster. He went round a corner and saw Iida on the floor and blood pouring out of his shoulder, while hero killer Stain stood over him ready to strike him down. Everything slowed down for Izuku while he charged Stain. There was a flickering sparks around him. His hair was flickering yellow, while his strength was jumping higher before Izuku's fist connected with Stain's face, a dislocating sound sending him into a wall. Both Stain, who climbed out of the wall with a dislocated jaw, and Iida, who was paralyzed, looked in shock. Izuku was standing there in a stance looking dead in Stain's eyes which were filled with bloodlust. Izuku glanced back at Iida to see was now safe and the flickering has stopped. He pulled his phone out and sent a distress signal for any nearby heroes. Midoriya, why you here?" Iida mastered to speak out while being paralyzed to the floor. "Your brother would be disappointed. As for me, I came here to save you. Hero's job is to risk everything to save a life, to be selfless, not to do things for their own good like vengeance. Iida, meddling in someone else's business is the essence in being a hero." Izuku said, making Stain grin. Stain, I understand your motives and I believe in them, but killing is not the thing I admire about you. Izuku said before charging 2 energy blasts. Let's see whose motives will win, Hero, Stain said before going into his stance. Izuku charged Stain while he swung his blade at Izuku's chest. Izuku used his energy blast to hit the blade and snap it before sending the other blast into Stain's stomach, sending him back. Izuku quickly appeared behind Stain and hammered his head with both his fists, sending him to the floor. Stain threw a dagger at Izuku's face, which he dodged, but it wasn't Stain's plan. He ran at Iida with his blade drawn, then strikes. There was the sound of flesh being cut while blood hit the floor, filling the silence. Iida was staring with wide eyes at Izuku in front of him with a blade through his stomach, while Stain looked shocked before Izuku spit some blood out of his mouth. Sorry young hero, I didn't want to kill you, but it seems you are a true hero, you have my respect. Stain said before pulling out his blade, but it was stopped. Stain looked back, seeing Izuku grip his blade with his hand, making it bleed. You ain't getting rid of me that easily, Izuku shouted out while his power flared up. He pulled the blade in further, making Stain get yanked towards him and receive a hard punch to the face, hearing a crack. Me Midoriya, stop, get out of here, it's not your fight, Iida shouted, feeling responsible for his injury. That's the point, Iida, well, fighting for your own self you're weak while fighting for someone makes you strong. Izuku said in between groans. You're one heck of a hero, kid. Stain said while having a wide smile before pulling out his second blade, but when he looked back Izuku disappeared. But he was cut off by a sudden rush of pain in his back before being flown forwards and met by a punch to the guts, making him spit out and collapse to his knees. Izuku charged a huge blast and shot it at Stain, making him get pummeled into the ground, going across it, leaving a trace. Before he could recover, he was kicked in the face, sending him into the wall, before getting uppercut head, making him lift of the ground, before getting slammed down into the ground. Midoriya, I came as fast as Todoroki was cut off by what he saw. Hey Todoroki, Izuku said before collapsing to his knees, pulling out the blade and holding his wound while blood poured out. Midoriya, Todoroki shouted before running up to him trying to help him, but Izuku pushed him toward Stain. Restrain him, then help the heroes. Izuku said before trying to stand up. After restraining Stain, Iida and the pro hero were able to move from paralysis. They came out into the streets and saw a group of pro heroes ran up to them. Hey, we got a distress signal, you're alright. One of the heroes said, then glanced at Izuku, which was all beaten up and bleeding from his wound. Someone call an ambulance and police. One hero said when he caught sight of Stain restrained, having cold sweat. Then everything was interrupted by a screech from the sky, gaining everyone's attention. It was a winged Naomu. It dived in and grabbed a hold of Izuku, pulling him up into the sky. He tried to fight it but was too weak right now, then suddenly it screeched and started to descend. Stain broke free and ran at the Naomu, stabbing it into the brain, killing it, making Izuku fall towards the floor. Endeavor catch up to the group and looked in horror when Stain stood up, releasing a lot of bloodlust, making everyone drop from the overwhelming lust, while his mask dropped, showing a cut-off nose, but Izuku was gaining as much strength as he could to make a move. You all fakes, this society is filled with selfish heroes, we have to get rid of them, someone has to get stained in blood to build this society of heroes, the only person who I let kill me is All Might, come on, come and get me, you bunch of fakes. Stain was cut short when Izuku hit his stomach with all his energy that was left, knocking him out. Izuku looked at the pro heroes and saw the reporter helicopter before falling unconscious. Everyone looked in shock before running towards Izuku's body. Ambulance with police came and took Izuku to the hospital, while Stain was escorted to jail. At the bar. Not him again, Tamura shouted while scratching his neck, looking furious. Your son is a pain in the ass, Hisashi, he keeps cheating and getting stronger, we had a chance to kill him before, why did we chose to try and make him into a Naomu? Tamura shouted at Hisashi, who was smoking a cigar. I don't know, but he was a perfect subject, we have to come up with something before he finds us. Hisashi was interrupted when the TV with audio only spoke out. Don't worry guys, we have our new recruit for him to handle and some more on the way. Said all for one while a figure stepped into the room. Who are you supposed to be? Tamura asked, looking furious. Well, that's no way to talk to your superior, peasant. I can bring down your earth in a matter of seconds, but I'll forgive you as I'm being generous from your master's proposition. Name's Frieza, the Emperor of Universe 7, the Destroyer of Planets, pleased to make your acquaintance. So I heard you need someone gone. Frieza stepped out of the shadows with a menacing smile. Final form without the halo. At the hospital. Izuku shot up from the hospital bed while groaning in pain from the wound that opened up. He used his energy to heal the wound and took a look around. It was still nighttime and the fires were being put out. He looked to the side and saw Momo sleeping soundless, but then noticed her cheeks were all puffed up from crying. My poor angel, I'm sorry. Izuku whispered while moving some strands off of her face, making Momo shift in her sleep before waking up. Aizu. Aizu, she screamed in relief and sadness while pulling him into a tight hug which he accepted. He felt her tears on his shoulder. "Hey there, everything is fine now, I'm okay," he said, making her bring him into a tighter hug. "I thought I'll lose you, your injuries were bad, you told me. Hey, I'll never leave you, we'll make a happy family together and live to see our children grow up and find their loved ones as we found each other, Momo," Izuku said before kissing her, releasing from the pressure on her heart. After a week of internships and hero work for Izuku, they were back and Izuku had to give away his license while writing a report of what happened. Everyone was in class talking about their internships. Kirishima and Shiro were laughing at Bakugo's new hairstyle before it went back to normal from anger. They were talking about who changed the most and said Iida changed the most before Izuku stepped into the class looking at his hands with dead eyes full of sorrow when a flashback came of his hero work. "Hey Midoriya, we heard you were a temporary hero at Hosu, you captured Hero Killer and defeated the Naumus, you're so manly," Kaminari shouted out, making others agree but Momo and making Izuku flinch. "Hey Izu, you okay?" Momo asked, concerned, snapping Izuku out of his thoughts, putting a fake smile on which she saw through. "Yeah, I'm okay." It was. Flashback. Izuku was in the middle of a villain's hideout, standing in a bloodbath full of corpses of families he couldn't reach in time, with teary eyes and clenched fists. "I'm sorry," he sobbed to himself while feeling guilt and anger grow. "Reality? Izu?" Momo asked, concerned, when Izuku stopped mid-sentence. "Oh sorry, yeah, well it was fun and educational about the hero work," he said while feeling guilt build up. They all had basic hero training with All Might at the ground beta, conducting a race for a rescue operation. Iida, Shiro, Ashido, Ejiro and Izuku were in their respectful positions for the rescue race. Izuku was determined not to win, but to improve. When the bell rang, everyone launched off but not Izuku. Izuku closed his eyes and concentrated while levitating, surprising the classmates. He opened his eyes and tucked his elbows in and powered up, making the whole section to shake. He then disappeared out of sight, flying towards All Might, leaving a trail, and before anyone knew it, it was the end. "Young Midoriya, how in the world?" All Might asked shockingly while others starting to get closer and saw Izuku already there. "I've gotta improve," Izuku said while clutching his fist tight. "Did any of you saw that?" Kaminari asked, shocked, making others shake their heads with open jaws. "That was unbelievable speed, and did he learn how to fly?" Uraraka asked, dumbfounded. "Is so manly," Kirishima screamed, punching the air. "I wasted my time in the internship doing shit, well Deku's power increased even more, he even learned how to fly," Bakugo screamed in his head while shaking in anger and frustration. "I don't expect anything less from Midoriya," Todoroki said, looking at the monitors. "My Izu," Momo thought while clutching her chest where her heart was beating. After that they had normal classes with Izawa, which said they will be having a summer training camp, making the whole class erupt in cheers, but then were silenced. He said only the ones who will pass the final exam will be going, which had a practical and written. Some asked Momo to tutor them, making her all excited and starting the preparations, making everyone sweat drop. There sat Izuku deep in thought about his talk with All Might. Flashback. "Young Midoriya, I heard what happened on your mission, and I'm sorry to hear that," All Might said, making Izuku frown a little before looking down at All Might's scrawny figure. "All Might, I'm afraid," Izuku said, making All Might flinch at that comment. "What do you?" He was cut off by Izuku. "I'm afraid there's going to be a villain which will be too strong to beat, and after all the encounters with villains, I found information about the League of Villains having a new member or members, they starting to target me, and with that all the others in 1A," Izuku said while having teary eyes. "Listen, when that happens we'll fight together no matter what and won't give up until we beat them, you hear?" All Might said, making Izuku nod. "I'm afraid when that happens one of us will die, and I'll do whatever it takes to prevent you from dying," Izuku thought before walking out. "If that happens, young Midoriya, I'll be the one to lose my life, not you, I promise, and pass my quirk on to you," All Might thought. Reality. "Izu, will you be joining us?" Momo said, looking in Izuku's green eyes. I'm sorry but I can't. I'll be focusing more on my training," he said before kissing her. Everyone was now in the cafeteria eating and talking about what's going to be on the practical and written exam, but Izuku on the other hand was in his mindscape searching through his memories when he was a Saiyan in a different reality. He then was elbowed from behind by Monoma from class 1B. "Ow, sorry, my arm slipped," Monoma said while having a grin. "What do you want?" Izuku asked, not even paying attention. "Hey, I heard you stumbled on the hero killer and were saved by a hero limit breaker which was also a vigilante before. Ow, sorry Midoriya, was that you?" Monoma asked sarcastically. "It's just hard to believe someone like you capturing the hero killer while letting countless families die in cold blood," he said, making Izuku break a table while everyone flinched at that action. "Is someone angry?" "I'm sorry for bringing that up," he was saying sarcastically before getting cut short while the whole building begun to shake violently while an immense aura covered Izuku, who was standing up, and there was a flickering of gold on him. Izuku walked up to Monoma and lifted him up by the throat, sending out a death glare and killing intent all over the cafeteria, making everyone fear him. "You think I don't know that?" he shouted out while tears were streaming down his eyes and his hair was flickering yellow. "Do you even know the pain I had to endure? It's worse than being shot or cut, it's something that can't be healed," Izuku shouted in anger before dropping him to the floor, making him gasp for air before teachers ran and looking at Izuku. "What's going on here?" Midnight asked, then saw Izuku crying before walking away, releasing his power. "What happened here?" Midnight asked again. Monoma said something about countless families dying. Uraraka was cut off when Midnight gasped at that. "How dare you say that to Izuku? You're lucky to be alive right now. You don't know what he had to endure." Midnight shocked everyone by the outburst before leaving to find Izuku. After school everyone started getting ready for the written exams, while Izuku was nowhere to be found, only to see him come back all dirty and sweaty at night. 1 week later everyone took their written exams, some were nervous, some were complimenting Momo for tutoring them. Everyone was now standing at the center plaza with teacher in front of them waiting for the physical exams. After teachers told the students they will be fighting in pairs against the teachers, they were all shocked, but Izuku looked forward to it. The second pair will be Midoriya and Bakugo. Aizawa said, making both of them look at each other. "And your opponent is," Aizawa said before All Might landed in front of them. "I am here to fight," he said, shocking Bakugo but making Izuku grin. "I've been preparing All Might." Izuku spoke out, shocking everyone at the new attitude and making All Might laugh. "Everything is as in the anime." Now Izuku and Bakugo were standing at the entrance waiting for the signal to start. "Bakugo, you know what this means, right? We've got to work together if we." Izuku was cut short. "Boo." Bakugo sending out a rivalry glare. "I don't need your help to win you here, I'll be fine on my own," Bakugo shouted out, and in that time, like it was planned, the bell rang, making Bakugo walk off. They made it halfway before All Might sent wind pressure through half the city, blowing Bakugo away, while Izuku stood his ground. "Who cares if I destroy the city? Come at me with your full power, heroes, if you want to win." All Might said it very intimidatingly, making Izuku's blood boil and fist inching. "Full power, huh? What about you? Why not use your full power, All Might? You might struggle against us," Izuku said while looking dead in All Might's eyes, intimidating him. "Geez, young Midoriya, I'm trying to intimidate you, but you are the one intimidating me," All Might thought while laughing, trying to seem to be unscathed by the comment. In the monitor room. "Did he just challenged All Might to use his full power, so manly?" Kirishima shouted out while pumping his fist into the air. "Back to the fight." Deku, his mind stun grenade. Bakugo launched himself with his explosions at All Might and using a stun grenade. Bakugo was about to blow All Might face but was caught by All Might's hand around his face, but he had no intention in giving up, so he fired a rapid shots of explosions in All Might's face to only receive laughter. All Might crushed Bakugo into the ground, making him gasp for air after his release. Before he could finish him, the whole area started to shake violently while sparks were landing everywhere. The rocks all around started to levitate, gaining All Might's attention. He looked back and saw Izuku powering up while having a grey aura around him. "You ready?" Izuku shouted out before placing his index and middle finger on his forehead before disappearing into dust and reappearing behind All Might. What the All Might was cut short when he was hit in his back, making him fly into a building. "Bakugo, get up, there's no time to rest, let's finish him," Izuku shouted out, making Bakugo growl before getting up with a furious face. "You fine?" Bakugo shouted out before readying for All Might comeback. "Nice hit, young Midoriya, but not powerful enough," All Might said before reappearing in front of them too, taking a swing at Midoriya, who caught his punch surprisingly. "Give him hell, Bakugo," Izuku yelled, making All Might realize Bakugo's gauntlets were ready. Before he could dodge, Bakugo blew him into a nearby house. "Okay, we gotta go, Bakugo," Izuku shouted before levitating and starting to fly, while Bakugo was using his explosions to fly through the air. Before they could reach the finish line, All Might appeared and broke Bakugo's gauntlets and punching Izuku hard into the house. "Good, until he'll recover I'll be done with Bakugo," All Might thought before punching Bakugo in his gut, sending him flying, spitting out saliva. "You bastard," Bakugo shouted before using his max explosion out of his hand, straining them. "Without risks you can't win," Bakugo shouted in his head before shooting another explosion. He was about to shoot another before All Might punched him in the face, making him drop while being restrained by All Might's big hands. "I'll keep fighting, I will break myself until there's nothing left. I'll win the way I want to win and I won't accept defeat at your hands," Bakugo exclaimed before passing out from exhaustion. "Bakugo!" Izuku screamed out before walking out of the collapsing house and charging All Might. Before All Might could connect his fist with Izuku's face, he used instant transmission, appearing behind All Might and hammering his head before going for a side kick to the head. All Might caught the kick and slammed Izuku into the floor, creating a crater. "There's no way you're winning, young heroes," All Might said before Izuku disappeared and appeared away from All Might. "I guess I've got to use it," Izuku said out loud, making All Might curious. Kaioken Izuku shouted before getting engulfed in crimson red aura and screaming in pain before powering up to his max, shaking the whole battle arena and the monitor room. What's this power? Most of them asked themselves. The ground was getting teared up and buildings started to collapse before Izuku started All Might. He screamed and dashed at blinding speed, which All Might couldn't see before getting punched in the guts, making him spit saliva, then a side kick to his head, sending him into the ground before getting blasted by multiple energy blasts. All Might stumbled to his feet while his weights all fell from the damage. "Nice young Midoriya, you impressed me, but now let's get serious," All Might said before getting out of sight even for Izuku with his heightened senses. Izuku miraculously blocked a punch from All Might, sending him through multiple of buildings before getting back up and charged All Might with energy blasts which he dodged. They both clashed fists, making a large shock wave blowing some of the ground away. "I can feel it, I can't hold this form for long," Izuku thought before feeling the strain on his body making him shake. Izuku jumped away from All Might and prepared for a Kamehameha. "My finishing move Kamehameha," Izuku screeches out from the pain, blasting a large beam of light at All Might which punched it, stopping it easily, making Izuku push it even further. "Kaioken X2," he screamed, doubling his beam size and making his muscles bulk up. All Might was getting pushed back before using a 100% and a large explosion from the two powers colliding, sending both Izuku and All Might flying and unconscious. Another universe. "That Sayian is interesting, I might just train him," the angel said while looking at the other two training. "I think they will get along." Chapter 12. Izuku was floating in an open abyss, seeing the endless nothingness, feeling cold. "I'm coming for you, Limit Breaker," a voice spoke out, echoing throughout the abyss, sending shivers down Izuku's spine while making his heart race from the fear building up in his chest before he shot from a hospital bed, falling to the floor groaning from the pain. He grabbed his chest where his heart was beating furiously, his breathing was uneven from the shock while cold sweat dropped down his forehead. His eyes were filled with fear, the fear he never experienced before. Why did I fear that voice? Who was he? He thought before looking around, seeing himself in recovery room still at UA. He walked up to the window looking out and thought. My fear's coming true, an unbeatable villain is coming. He said out loud, clenching his fists, making him look determined but feeling an immense power within him. This summer camp I need to push myself to the brink, he thought before heading to class. Why don't we make a class trip to the mall for the summer camp? Mina shouted, excited, pumping her fists up, gaining everyone's attention. Most agreed besides Bakugo and Todoroki, which was visiting his mother. Then the door slid open, revealing Izuku in his school uniform. He was about to greet them before Momo jumped on him and engulfed him in a hug. Hey guys, I heard something about the mall. He asked before he was informed about the shopping. They will go as a whole class. Stop taking things too far, Izu. By the way, you passed your practical same as your written. Momo said, mad at first, but then calmed down. After school everyone went back to their dorms, but not before Izuku got praised from his class how he took on All Might. I'm proud of you, young Midoriya, you came far. That fight definitely made me sweat. All Might said, making Izuku laugh. Whatever you say, All Might, but I was sure I knocked you out. I guess I was wrong. Izuku said, sarcastically, walking away before waving a goodbye. You would be so much stronger with my quirk, young Midoriya. All Might thought while frowning. Izuku was walking to the dorm before feeling a cold chill down his spine, like someone was watching him. He span around looking at the wall, seeing a shadow figure. It was pure black, like staring into the abyss with lifeless wide eyes, while his hair floated from which little horns appeared. It was giving out uncomfortable atmosphere, filling Izuku with fear which he felt in the dream, making his heart beat at a fast pace, while his hairs on the body stood up. Eyes TT that H him. Izuku thought before catching a terrifying sight of the figure forming a menacing smile which went across its whole face, only to show emptiness like his eyes. I'm coming, and when I do you'll die like the others. The figure spoke in a very demonic voice which was filled with bloodlust and hatred before disappearing, making Izuku fall to his knees, grabbing his chest, trying to steady his heartbeat. What even was that? Others? Who? He thought before calming down. Next day Izuku was walking with his classmates and Momo, having their hands intertwined to the shopping mall. They were separating, making Momo leave with the girls and Izuku with the boys, but he felt a dark presence making him refuse and go on his own. He tracked the dark energy which felt familiar before getting a glance of a hooded man. Shigaraki. Izuku thought before Shigaraki caught a glance of Izuku waving for him to follow. They sat opposite to each other at the cafe. Shigaraki was glaring at Izuku, but Izuku didn't seem to be affected by that look. Give me a good reason, Shigaraki, not to arrest you right here right now. Izuku asked nonchalantly, but prepared to get into a fight at any second. You wouldn't want Namus all over this mall, would you? And by now you probably know we have new recruits which are ready to go. Shigaraki said with a cocky smile, while Izuku saw no hint of a lie in his eyes. Okay, so what did you came here for? Izuku asked, crossing his arms while narrowing his eyes at Shigaraki. Tell me what's the difference between me and Stain? Why is everyone focused on him and not me? He asked, looking at Izuku for an answer to see a thoughtful expression. I'm not sure, but it might be because of his motives and beliefs. He wanted to show the world there are no true heroes as All Might, they only become heroes for their selfish desires like money and fame. Maybe because he stood up for his beliefs and went against the pro-heroes, making him look cool for the public, but I don't approve his killing as his motives, no one does. As for you, you stay in the shadows, making you dangerous but not famous, more dangerous than Stain. Izuku said before standing up and preparing to leave. If you do anything right now I won't hesitate to put you down, and for the future, if you cross my path you regret it. Izuku said in a threatening tone before leaving Shigaraki. I know it's because of people like you, and All Might, I'll get rid of them, all of them, all the true heroes, and I'll be coming for you, Izuku Midoriya, Shigaraki thought before leaving. After shopping for important stuff, Izuku was walking back to the meeting point when he caught a glance of yellow in the window's reflection. He saw a copy of himself staring down on him with yellow hair which was thick and spiked up, while his eyes looked challenging and showed a bright green color. What's this? He thought before he blinked and the image disappeared, showing his normal look. Everyone met up at the meeting point full of shopping bags before they went back to the dorms. During the weekends, Izuku met up with Mei Hatsune, asking her if she would help him make weights like All Might's, which could be regulated on rising the weights, making her jump around from happiness. She then filled Izuku's mind with barrage of questions for anything else, while giving some of her own ideas. Until the end of the semester, Izuku has spent a lot of his time in his mind's cape, finding anything useful and anything involving the black figure and his yellow hair. He then heard a knock on his door, making him come back to reality before opening the door, seeing Momo all excited. You look so excited, what happened? Izuku asked before she brought her fists towards her chest, having stars in her eyes. Everyone is going to the school pool, wanna come with us? She asked, all hyper, making Izuku think about it before getting cut off by Momo, making her puppy eyes and puffing her cheeks out. Oh my god, stop that. Okay, I'm going, okay. Izuku said before getting engulfed in a tight hug before Momo realized something. Izu. Did you realize you've grown even more taller? Momo stated, making Izuku look confused. He looked into a mirror and saw he was about 185 centimeters now, higher than Iida, and catching up with Shoji, which stood 187 centimeters. This is ridiculous, I'm on some sort of drug. Izuku said jokingly, making Momo giggle. Come on, prepare yourself, we are already leaving. She said before leaving Izuku in thought. But my scars, he thought before got his school swimming shorts and a towel, placing them both in a bag before leaving. Izuku walked into the boys' changing rooms, greeting everyone. Hey guys, I guess everyone's here? He asked while scanning the changing room, gaining attention. Oh hey me, oh my god, how in the earth did you grow this much? We didn't see you in a day, more like a night, Kirishima asked, raising the question everyone had. I guess I'm on some sort of drug. He said jokingly before chuckling nervously. Listen here Deku, I don't care if you've grown, it won't make a difference, I still the best, Bakugo shouted, making Izuku roll his eyes before changing. Everyone went out into the pool to see the girls are not there yet. Izuku walked up to the edge before diving in the water, diving right to the bottom, before stroking once, making his way through the water like a fish in its atmosphere. He faced the sky, looking up through the water, seeing a bright light which looked beautiful. He made it to the end and rose up to get some air and looked around to see everyone staring at him. What? We came here to swim, didn't we? He asked rhetorically, snapping them out before they jumped in. Soon the girls arrived and saw the boys doing training except Izuku, who was floating on water, peacefully looking up into the sky like he was out of their world, which he was. The legend of a Super Saiyan, huh? I guess that's what it was. He thought before getting back to reality to see Momo calling for him. What is it, Momo? Izuku asked while he slowly swam towards them before getting out of the water, revealing his toned muscles. The girls blushed at the view, his muscles were godly, and his height was a bonus, making most of them jealous of Momo and have some dirty thought, making them blush furiously. His muscles were even more distinct by the water which rolled down his upper body, but then they caught glances of multiple scars he had. Would you like to join us? She asked, which Izuku agreed to, after which they played volleyball in the water. Why is he splashing with them while we are training? Kaminari asked while Mineta had a perverted and an angry with jealous look. The fun was interrupted by Bakugo, which was furious, making small explosions in his palms. Deku, let's fight and see who's the best from us, I'll show everyone you're nothing, Bakugo spat, making Izuku sigh. Relax Bakugo, can't you take some time off? You never know when it will be your last. Izuku said, mumbling before Iida broke the tension. Why not see who swims the fastest? Like a competition. Iida said, making Bakugo smirk and Izuku heavily sigh. Bakugo won in the first race, then Todoroki, and now Izuku was against Iida, Ejiro and Shoji. Hey, did anyone see the comparison between Midoriya and Shoji? Midoriya is catching up with his height, Kaminari shouted. They all got in their positions before the whistle was blown, making the launch off. Iida was sliding on the wire, while Ijiro and Shoji dived in. Izuku dived in and struck once with his strength, pushing all the water behind him back and sending him forward at great speed. Before anyone knew it, he made it to the end while looking back, seeing Ijiro and Shoji were blown out of the water and Iida was halfway there. The winner is Izuku. Momo cheered out, same as the other girls, while the boys had open jaws. Now the last competitors, the winners of the last 3 races, ready, Iida exclaimed, making Todoroki, Bakugo and Izuku prepare. Set, go, Iida shouted, making them launch off before Bakugo and Todoroki hit the water without using their quirks, while Izuku just dived in and stroked, as before, blowing them away. It's 5 p.m. Your official time to be here is over, now go home. Aizawa exclaimed while his hair was levitating with his eyes glowing red. Everyone started to protest before getting shut by Aizawa. Izuku walked out looking relieved before looking at Todoroki and Bakugo. I guess I won without the use of quirks, he said before chuckling. After some time, it was the time to get to the training camp. Everyone stood in front of the buses waiting for instructions. Time for non-stop training and reaching Super Saiyan, Izuku thought. Sorry guys, but now I will take long updates from time to time due to college starting up. Chapter 13. Everyone was sitting in the moving bus on their way to the summer training camp. Izuku and Momo sat together talking about different stuff before Izuku caught a glance of a familiar shadow which they passed by, filling his eyes with fear. Hey Izuku, you okay? You look like you just saw a ghost. Momo asked, concerned, snapping Izuku out of his fear, putting up a fake smile. I'm all good, he said before looking out the window, staring into the sky. Why am I so afraid of him? Who is he? He asked himself. The bus came to a stop, making everyone go out for a stretch before 2 ladies stepped out from a car wearing a cat-like outfit. We are here, the wild hussy cats, they introduced themselves, getting into a stance. There was a little kid standing beside them wearing a hat with horns on them with a hateful look. My name is Mandalay, and this is Mandalay, was cut short by her teammate. You're lovely and single, Pixie Bob, she shouts out excitedly while eyeing the boys, then falling on Izuku. Before she knew it, Momo stepped in front of him with a death glare. We own this land and have a campsite at the base of the mountain, Mandalay says while pointing her finger far away, making everyone sweat drop. So why did we stop here? Uraraka asks hesitantly. We both know the answer to that, Ribbit Asui says, making everyone wide eye in protest. Right now it's 9:30 in the morning, if you're fast enough you could make it there by noon, she says in a creepy tone, making everyone run for their lives. Before they could get on the bus, Pixie Bob used her quirk to manipulate the earth and send everyone down the hill. When the dust cleared, Izuku stood there with Momo in his hands, shocking the 2 heroes. Ah Midoriya, I thought you would be able to withstand this, so I got you these, Aizawa said, pulling out his weighted wrists and ankle bands. I've got a special assignment for you, you've got to wear these and come to the camp before noon. And no flying or powering up, Aizawa said while glaring at his last words before Izuku put on his weights and immediately falling to the floor. Damn, they're heavy. What setting did you put them on? Izuku said before struggling to stand up, but before Aizawa said anything, Momo and him were blown off the mountain down to their classmates. Everyone stared at Momo and then at shaky Izuku. Hey Midoriya, what's up with you? Iida asked before noticing bracelets. Well, I've got weights on, he said before starting to move. The person who gets in front of Midoriya gets to boss him around for a day, Aizawa shouted, making Izuku gulp before seeing everyone's faces change into more competitive state. Well, some had evil looks, which was most of the boys, while others had a drooling look, more like all the girls. Everyone started to run through the forest while defeating the mud beasts, while Izuku struggled to move. Hours later, Wana made it to camp exhausted. Momo came in first just before Bakugo, Todoroki and Iida, surprisingly. Everyone collapsed to the floor breathing hard. Momo was looking around desperately searching for Izuku, but didn't catch his sight. I guess those weights are something to hold Izu up, she thought before Aizawa with Mandalay and Pixie Bob and a kid walked out from the building. You took longer than expected, even though I gave you a reason to come in first, you disappoint me, Aizawa said before Mandalay stepped by him with her hat on his shoulder. What is trying to say is that you all did good for your first time. We thought you were going to take longer, but here you are, Mandalay said while Pixie Bob was eyeing the boys and didn't see Izuku anywhere. I'm guessing Midoriya failed his Asuka. Aizawa was interrupted by loud footsteps before Izuku came out of the forest, all beaten up with parts of his clothes ripped, exhausted. Heavy breathing. YUT tried doing this W weights, Izuku said before letting his body fall to the ground hard due to the weights making a small crater. He wasn't supposed to make it this fast, Aizawa thought with a shocked expression, while Momo ran up to Izuku and took off the weights. Hey guys, could you help me out here? He's a little too heavy for me to carry. Momo said before Shoji and Kirishima ran up and got Izuku's arms over their shoulders. Geez, how much does he weigh? Kirishima asked, shocked at how heavy Izuku was. They carried him inside to their rooms and went for lunch. Everyone was eating their lunch, well devouring them before Izuku stepped out from a corner, smudging his face and stretching his limbs. Izuku's eyes widened when he saw how much food there was, and without a second thought he rushed in at blinding speed and started devouring the food plate by plate, bowl by bowl. It looks like you didn't eat for weeks. Mandalay said while looking at how everyone ate, especially Izuku, who was filling his whole mouth. After an hour they finished and Izuku was stuffed before they all went into the hot springs. Hey Momo, we all know that you came first, but could you command Midoriya for us? Mina asked while fiddling her fingers and looking embarrassed. No, his mine and mine alone. Momo said, strictly making everyone scowl. On the other side of the wall sat the boys, relaxed in the hot springs, while Mineta was staring at the tall wall, drooling, imagining his dirty thoughts. I know the reason I was gifted with this quirk. Mineta said while grasping one of his balls and looking at it. Mineta, what are you trying to do? Iida asked uptightly. Don't you know what's waiting on the other side? Mineta said completely insanely. Walls are meant to be climbed, Mineta shouted before using his quirk to climb the wall, while Iida was trying to argue with his to stop. When Mineta reached the top, there was the same kid whose name was Kota. Before becoming a hero, try and become a human. Kota said harshly before slapping Mineta away, making him fall, screaming, damn kid, thanks Kota, you're the man, Mina shouted while giving him a thumbs up. He didn't even realize and looked in their direction. He stumbled back and fell off the wall, passing before he reached halfway. Izuku caught him while levitating in the air. Easy there. Izuku said before landing and walking to Mandalay's office. When he made it, he explained what happened and lay Kota on the sofa. We heard that there's a troublesome kid within your group who likes looking at girls, so we asked Kota to keep on watch. Mandalay said before looking at Izuku, who only had a towel covering his lower region. She saw the multiple scars he had on his body, nasty scars. Hey Midoriya, can I ask what happened? Mandalay asked, making Izuku look at her to see her glancing at his body. Oh, that I always wanted to be a hero, but being quirkless didn't help. He said, surprising Mandalay. Yes, I know, how can a quirkless be in a hero course? Well, I unlocked a power within me making my body to change. My old appearance is much different than this one. I used to be a quirkless vigilante. Izuku said, surprising her. It all started when I was 12, I saved countless lives from a burning building where I got my first scars. That was my first time fighting a villain. Izuku said, shocking Mandalay. But you were just a kid then. Mandalay said, shocked. I know, but when the circumstances fall into that category that I was in, there was nothing to do but fight back. After that vigilante work, I became a vigilante known as Limit Breaker, which is my hero name now. Izuku said, sighing. Tell me what happened with Kota that made him hate heroes. Izuku asked while looking at sleeping Kota. Kota's parents were killed by a villain. Pixie Bob said while walking into the office with a saddened look, and even more saddened when she saw Izuku's body. Sigh, it's real hard to live without your real parents. My mother was brainwashed and turned into a villain by my father. They tried to experiment on me, turn me into a monster which can kill all might. They tried to break me, but I kept fighting, and then they chose to kill my mother in front of me. My father now is involved with a league of villains. Izuku said, shocking both of them. This world will never prepare you for these situations. I was broken. But then I met my classmates, had a problem with one, but now it's fine, I guess. Momo was the one to bring me back to my feet. I don't know who would I be if it wasn't for her. Izuku said while a smile appeared on his face. I guess I better leave now, don't want to miss out the hot springs. Izuku said before exiting, leaving Mandalay and Pixie Bob in shock at his story. What did he had to go through? They both thought before looking at Kota, who was sound asleep. After the hot springs everyone went to bed, but Izuku had uneasy feeling before falling asleep. The next day everyone was woken up early for their training. They all stood in the fields tired. Midoriya, stay alive. Aizawa said before throwing a ball to him which he caught. Let's see how far you improved without using the special beam of yours. Aizawa said before Izuku stepped out of the ground and readied himself. The ground started shaking uncontrollably before Izuku started to glow gray. The rocks around him levitated before he started to growl, making spark come off him. Ready or not, here I go. Izuku said before taking a huge swing and throwing the ball with a sonic boom which followed with a huge gust of wind pushing everyone to the floor. Aizawa looked at his phone, seeing the measurement going out of control, before an infinity sigh appeared. Sigh, okay Bakugo, your turn. It was useless to pick Midoriya. Aizawa said. What? Izuku asked before going back into the crowd. Bakugo threw the ball shouting go to hell. Aizawa looked at his phone seeing the result he need before showing them all. 709.3 meters, you may have had experience fighting villains, but your quirks didn't improve that drastically, so in this training camp, we will be focusing on improving them. And let me tell you this, that this training camp will be a living hell for you. Izawa said with an evil grin. Class 1B arrived to the fields and were shocked to see Class 1A there already training what seemed to be a brutal training. We're here to improve your quirks, so we must push you all to the brim of your limits. Vlad King said before everyone heard screaming coming from the woods while the ground shook like an earthquake. They all saw electricity building up before Izuku started levitating into the air. His hair and aura was flashing gold color, making him scream out louder, shaking the whole area before it all stopped, and he was back to his original look. Shit, I was so close, he shouts out irritated before landing and putting his weights on going back to his training. After the training everyone went back to the cabin to see no food, only the ingredients. Remember what we said yesterday? Yesterday was the only time we would cook for you, so here you are the instructions of how to cook a curry. Pixie Bob said while everyone looked dead before Izuku flew in and landed in front of the crowd. Hey, what's happening here? I just finished up with my training. Izuku said while looking around seeing ingredients. I'm guessing we are cooking ourselves. Izuku said to receive a nod from Mandalay. I'm calling dibs on this pile, Izuku shouted while running up to the most pile of ingredients, making Momo chuckle before joining him. Izuku used his powers to help him cook the curry to his best ability. Before anyone knew it, he finished up with Momo with a giant pots of curry. Everyone stared at Izuku, who was eating bowl after bowl of curry while Momo was smiling at the display. What? I've got to stay in shape. Izuku said with stuffed up mouth before continuing to eat. After Izuku finished up, it was turning dark when everyone else finished with their curry. Izuku saw Koda walking away with an angry look through the woods. Koda was on a hill next to a cave overwatching the whole scenery of the woods and the camp before Izuku stepped out from the shadows. Hey. Izuku said while walking up to Koda with his curry. How did you find me? Koda shouted angrily. Would you believe me if I told you I sensed your energy? Izuku said before stopping next to Koda and looking into the distance. Beautiful, isn't it? Izuku asked, but Koda didn't answer, only growled. You are just trying to improve your quirks to show off, heroes, villains. They all just try to show off and kill each other. Koda said angrily. You know, Koda, not everyone is like that. I don't think your parents were like that. Izuku said, making Koda snap his head at him. You don't know that, you don't know anything about it, you're just like the other pathetic heroes, Koda shouted before Izuku looked in his eyes, which he saw were filled with sadness, guilt and pain. Koda, I wanted to be a hero since I learned how to walk, but fate had something planned entirely different for me. I was deemed quirkless at the age of 4, making my childhood a living hell of bullying. But I never gave up and now I'm here talking to you. The only thing I want to do is to save people no matter the consequences, even if it costs me my life. Someday you'll understand and will understand your parents' actions. Izuku said before placing the bowl of curry on the floor and walking away. Eat up, boy. Izuku said before he left. He's just like me. Koda thought before looking at the curry in front of him. Everyone went to bed while on the other side of the forest multiple figures stood. So everyone know the plan. Who cares about the plan, just let me lose, I want a taste of him. You psychotic bastard, calm down, we still waiting for others. Don't worry, we coming for you, Izuku Midoriya. Chapter 14. The next day it was all the same, Class 1 and 1B were training to their limits. While Izuku was in the middle of the fields meditating, trying to find out how to reach the next level, his eyes shot open filled with determination. He rose up to his feet making some quick stretches, he placed his feet shoulder width apart and tucked his arms in. He closed his eyes and breathed in and out relaxing, there was a soft glow coming off of him while small rocks levitated. It's time. Izuku thought before shooting his eyes open, which were filled with fire. He started to power up, making the whole area to shake. Izawa was looking over some students before feeling an earthquake. He looked around and saw Izuku powering up, making the whole ground around him shake and break apart. Arg! Izuku started to scream, tightening his fists, his body started to tense and shake. Come on, Izuku screamed while flaring up his energy, creating a giant wind pressure, pushing any boulders around him further. The electricity started to build up around him. What the hell's happening? Someone from Class 1B shouted while all the people's attention was brought towards Izuku. I need more power, Izuku shouted, making the ground crack underneath him. The wind intensified while the clouds went darker and lightning struck into the ground near Izuku. Is he reaching a new level? Izawa thought with his wide eyes. Izuku faced the sky and screamed at the top of his lungs, which was heard all across the field like a massive sound wave. His hair and aura was flickering gold. Power comes with a need, not a desire. Izuku heard his own voice in his head, making him pull out the whole energy he had left. I need this power to protect everyone, he shouted in his head, making his energy to intensify, blowing everyone who was miles away a few feet. There was a last lighting which hit Izuku straight on with a blinding glow which covered Izuku. Everyone felt the energy dying down before there was nothing. They all saw a golden figure which was too bright to stare at, making them cover their eyes. When the light died down they were all shocked. Everyone stared with wide eyes seeing Izuku covered with a golden aura and golden hair which stood up levitating while spiked up a little. Izuku was breathing heavily before looking over his shoulder, seeing everyone staring at him with disbelief in their eyes. He looked back at his hand before tensing it, feeling the power flow through his veins. "I did it," Izuku said before he fell into the ground, returning back to normal. Momo didn't waste any more time and ran up to him, laying her ear on his back, feeling a steady and strong heartbeats. "You big dummy," Momo muttered before chuckling. Izuku woke up inside infirmary while feeling some weight on his chest. He looked down before smiling. He saw Momo sleeping on him, making him move some strands out of her face to see her beautiful face. "Hey sleeping beauty, time to wake up," Izuku said soothingly, making Momo shuffle in her sleep before opening her eyes tiredly. "Hey Izu, how you doing?" she asked while rubbing her eyes before yawning. "I'm all good, but what happened? I can't remember anything," Izuku asked confused, making Momo punch him around his shoulder. "You took your training too far," again Momo shouted, pissed off, making Izuku feel like he was shrinking under her glare. "Well, you know me," Izuku said, making Momo sigh before she lifted herself up and got off the bed. "By the way, you transformed. Your hair turned golden color and your aura was golden too," Momo said before looking at Izuku, who was smiling. Momo and Izuku went out towards the meeting spot in the forest as Momo informed Izuku of what happened, that they are going to be doing some test of courage. Everyone formed a crowd and listened to what Pixie Bob told them. Hey formed groups, while Izuku looked at his group and made an assumption. "Wait, I'll be alone," he thought before looking at everyone there and saw everyone in their groups while he was alone. He spotted Mineta trying to hit on Momo. "How lucky am I?" Mineta asked sarcastically before feeling a chilling feeling behind him, making his hair to stand up. He got shivers down his spine while he felt some warm breath right behind him, making him gulp. He turned around to see Izuku straight in his face, glaring into his eyes. Izuku's eyes showed everything Mineta feared, making him fall on his ass and shrink into nothingness, while Izuku appeared to grow taller and more demonic for him. "PP please IIWWW won't he do it again," Mineta shouted out, terrified for his life. His face held an unimaginable fear, leading him to burst out into tears. "Good, now then Momo, you wouldn't mind me tugging along?" Izuku asked, raising himself up and looking at Momo, who looked relieved and happy. "Sure." Izuku suddenly felt a raise in energy, dark energy. "Everyone, villains are here," Izuku shouted, alerting everyone. "What do you mean they couldn't have?" Mandalay started before was cut off by Izuku. "Believe me, I can sense energy of living things, and this energy feels much more evil. There are 11 energies here in the forest coming towards us. No wait, they're surrounding us, prepare to fight," Izuku informed, dropping into a stance while powering up to his best ability. Everyone followed him and got ready to fight. Before they knew it, they heard slow sarcastic clapping while it got closer. They then saw a figure in the forest. "Wow, so you're the one they call Izuku Midoriya, is that right?" a figure asked calmly while filling his voice with venom. "What is it for you? And who are you?" Izuku asked, glaring at the figure ready to launch at any second. "Nothing in particular, only that I came here to kill you. As for me," the figure spoke before stepping out of the shadows, revealing Frieza in his final form. "Name's Frieza, Emperor of Universe 7, Destroyer of Planets. You look familiar in a way, did we encounter each other?" Frieza asked, narrowing his eyes before spotting an all-familiar tail. "Why you, I was sent here to kill a monkey, grrr you pest, I'll exterminate just for the fun of it. You'll be a perfect training session for me until I meet that stupid Saiyan," Frieza shouted angrily. "What are you even saying? You should back out right now before things get out of hand," Izuku said while in thought. "Saiyan, that's what I am right now. But who might he be talking about? There's no one I know of that has the same powers as me," he thought before getting interrupted by leaves rustling. He looked around and saw the other 10 villains surround them. "Naomu," he thought while looking at a similar creature as Naomu which had chainsaws. "Everyone get prepared to fight, we give you permission to engage," Mandalay said telepathically while also contacting Izawa. "You can take the weaklings while I take the monkey," Frieza said before he disappeared from sight, and before anyone knew it, he had his fist in Izuku's stomach. Izuku got thrown by the impact, which created a huge gust of wind pushing everyone down to the ground. Izuku crushed through countless trees before hitting a mountain and falling on the ground. He coughed up blood while feeling like his insides were crushed just by that one punch. "I actually thought you'll be a good fight, but I guess you're not like Goku. Now it's time to die," Frieza said before appearing in front of Izuku and punching him right in the head. Frieza's eyes went wide while seeing his punch was caught by Izuku's one hand before it started to crush his fist. Izuku glared up at Frieza before powering to the top and punching right into Frieza's guts. Frieza spat out blood before getting sent flying. Izuku intercepted him and hammered him into the ground, making a crater. Izuku dodged a laser blast which came out from the crater. Frieza flew out of there at insane speed, covered in a purple aura. Izuku blocked Frieza's punch and tried to counter it, but he flipped in the air and kneed Izuku in the head. Izuku sent a blast at Frieza which he dodged, but Izuku predicted that an axe kicked Frieza into the ground. Izuku didn't give any time to recuperate and started to blast out energy blasts at full power, reveling the mountains. Before Izuku knew, he sensed a large power boost and saw a large ball of energy get launched at him. Izuku outstretched his arms and tried to stop the blast which seemed to overpower him. "Shit Kaken," Izuku shouted, flaring up with a red aura making his muscles to bulk up. He punched the energy blast which exploded. Frieza flew right through it and punched Izuku in the face, sending him up into the sky before sending blasts which hit. Izuku started to fall but regained his senses and powered up even more. "Kaken times 3," Izuku shouted, making his energy go wild before he disappeared out of sight. Frieza got sent into the air by a punch to the guts, which seemed to take a huge toll on him. Izuku started an assault with barrage of punched, which followed by powerful blasts. "Shit, I won't hold on any longer, the training I'd done before taking its toll, and Kaken on top of that," he thought while feeling his body all aching from the beating and the training. His muscles started to hurt due to Kaken. "You pest, I am stronger than you bucking monkey, I'll kill you and all your friends," Frieza shouted, while his energy flared up dramatically before he started to form a giant ball of red energy, making Izuku's eyes widen. "No don't," Izuku shouted to only hear an evil chuckle from Frieza. "Say goodbye to your friends, pest," Frieza said before launching the blast towards the area everyone was fighting. Bakugo just blasted Compressor out of his way before dodging a slash from Spinner. He went into his fighting stance and took his time to look around. He saw most of his classmates and Class 1B down on the ground, defeated trying to fight the pain. He along with the other heroes, Aizawa and some of his classmates, Momo, Todoroki, Ajiro and Shoji. "What's that?" Kirishima exclaimed, making everyone look into the sky, seeing a giant ball of energy heading towards them. "What is that guy thinking he'll kill us? Loving the plan, now escape twice," shouted, changing from personality to personality. The blast kept getting closer before they saw Izuku fly in front of it and try to push it back while he growled in pain. His hands were getting burnt by the intensive heat. "Come on," he shouted, trying to push harder while gathering as much energy as he could. "You ain't getting past," Izuku screamed before punching the ball which exploded and created wind pressure which pushed everyone into the ground hard like being hit by a car. Then everyone heard a crash which raised the dust. When the dust cleared they saw Izuku bleeding from places. He looked beat up. Momo shouted, running up to him and crushed to the floor next to him while she created bandages. "Everything's going to be fine," Momo said, taking the bandages and applying them to Izuku, who barely was able to keep his eyes open at how drained he was. "Aoi Rozu, look out!" Todoroki with some others shouted, but were too late when Muscular grabbed her by her hair and threw her into a tree, making Izuku's eyes widen. "Why you?" Izuku growled, full of rage which started boiling rapidly. He clenched his fists, making them bleed while he lifted himself up to his feet. "You, that's my Momo," Izuku screamed into the air, making his energy to flare up, expediently pushing everyone away by the force. His hair and aura turned to gold with lighting covering him. "Haha, did I hurt your precious bit?" Muscular asked, but was cut off by Izuku disappearing and reappearing next to Muscular with his fist planted in his jaw. There was a nasty crack heard by everyone before Izuku punched Muscular into the ground, creating a crater. When the dust cleared everyone saw Muscular bleeding heavily from his head. While his jaw was definitely broken to bits, he was out cold, maybe even in critical condition. Izuku stood there glaring at the villains while his energy kept increasing. He crouched slightly and disappeared. Chapter 15. Previously. Then everyone heard a crash which raised the dust. When the dust cleared they saw Izuku bleeding from places. He looked beat up. Momo shouted, running up to him and crushed to the floor next to him while she created bandages. "Everything's going to be fine," Momo said, taking the bandages and applying them to Izuku, who barely was able to keep his eyes open at how drained he was. "Aoi Rozu, look out!" Todoroki with some others shouted, but were too late when Muscular grabbed her by her hair and threw her into a tree, making Izuku's eyes widen. "Why you?" Izuku growled, full of rage which started boiling rapidly. He clenched his fists, making them bleed while he lifted himself up to his feet. "You, that's my Momo," Izuku screamed into the air, making his energy to flare up, expediently pushing everyone away by the force. His hair and aura turned to gold with lighting covering him. "Haha, did I hurt your precious bit?" Muscular asked, but was cut off by Izuku disappearing and reappearing next to Muscular with his fist planted in his jaw. There was a nasty crack heard by everyone before Izuku punched Muscular into the ground, creating a crater. When the dust cleared everyone saw Muscular bleeding heavily from his head. While his jaw was definitely broken to bits, he was out cold, maybe even in critical condition. Izuku stood there glaring at the villains while his energy kept increasing. He crouched slightly and disappeared. Chapter 15 start. Once Izuku saw his beloved Momo grabbed by Muscular and thrown at a tree. The sound heard was loud, this made Izuku furious as he shouted at the top of his lungs. Izuku. That's my Momo. Muscular. What are you gonna? As Izuku powered up, his hair glowed golden, then he suddenly disappeared and reappeared in Muscular's blind spot only for a fist to make contact with his jaw. When the blow connected, a horrible cracking sound was heard. Muscular was sent flying in the opposite direction. All the villains saw Muscular and his jaw out of place. Blood flowed from his mouth. When the villains turned to face Izuku, they felt his presence was suffocating them. His glare had them paralyzed with fear, as if it was the last mistake they'd ever make. Izuku's speed was incredible. Nobody saw how he appeared behind Dabi. What happened next was brutal. Izuku grabbed both of Dabi's arms and pulled them back as he used his foot and kicked his back forward. The only sound heard was a sickening crunch. Both of Dabi's arms were now out of commission when Izuku dislocated both of his arms. A thud was heard as Dabi dropped to the ground screaming in agony. Toga tried to stab Izuku, but before her eyes he vanished. What she didn't expect was a kick to the face that broke both nose and jaw. The remaining villains, Magni, Twice, Spinner, Compress, were begging for Mekri until they all received a kick in the ribs. When all the villains were out of commission, Izuku turned his attention to Frieza only to see that he was gone. That's when a black portal appeared. It was Kurogiri who arrived to retrieve the vanguard who failed their mission. As Izuku ran towards the direction Momo was thrown, what he saw was Momo with a large bruise and a broken tree branch. Izuku held Momo as tears began to stream down his face. Izuku. Momo MSSS, sorry I cold protect you. As Momo gently placed a hand on his face and looked deeply into his eyes, she said. Momo. It's okay, we were ambushed, I just have a pretty bad bruise. Izuku. It's not okay, you're my girlfriend, the future mother of our children. I swore that I wouldn't let anything happen to you. Momo. Then I'll have to get stronger so you won't have to worry about me much. As Momo tried to stand up, her legs gave out only to have Izuku carry her bridal style from the area where she was thrown. Everyone was worried, but when they saw she just had a pretty bad bruise, they all took a breath of relief, knowing that she'll be okay. Elsewhere. Frieza. That damn fool, all for one, he didn't mention that the stupid monkey had attained the legendary form of the Super Saiyan. Frieza left to the League of Villains base in order to form a plan to deal with the monkey and the symbol of peace. Back at the camp. All the students survived the villains' attack but came out with minor scrapes and bruises, but other than that they were safe. They were all taken to the hospital to get their injuries disinfected. Parents were notified of the incident that took place. Within a few hours parents started to arrive. This made Izuku feel lonely, as he was now an orphan. He waited with Momo until her parents arrived. When Momo's parents arrived to the room she was in, Izuku stood up and let them have their privacy. Just as he was about to leave, he was stopped by Mr. Yaoirozu. Izuku. Boss, I'm really sorry I failed to protect Momo. If you want me to stay away from her, I promise I will. An. Don't know if names were mentioned for Momo's parents. I'll use the names I've given them in my works. The next thing that happened surprised Izuku. He was embraced by Momo's father Takeshi, who didn't seem upset with the events that transpired. Takeshi. I'm just glad you're both safe, and Izuku, you've brought my daughter to us alive. He'll still allow you to see her. Izuku. I promise to do a better job. So Izuku left the Yaoirozu family so they'd be alone. Izuku then went to the roof of the hospital. When Izuku arrived to the roof he began to take in the fresh air as he was deep in thought. He heard a voice in his head. Congratulations, you've broken through the first barrier. Izuku knew it was the voice of one of the people whose voice he heard when he unlocked his full potential. Listen to my words, Izuku, a major battle shall take place soon. Be prepared because we will see you soon. Izuku. Wait, how will I know when you arrive? You'll know. Chapter 16, The Arrival. After everyone was patched up from the villain attack, they were all sent to the dorms back at UA. Upon their arrival, security was increased yet again for the safety of the young heroes in training. All of Class 1 were relaxing in the common room. Momo was lying her head down on Izuku's lap when all of a sudden there was a tremendous change in pressure. This pressure that they all felt was suffocating. It had the same feeling as when Izuku went Super Saiyan, but this pressure was on a whole other level. As all the pro heroes who were in charge of the dorms rushed outside to see what this possible threat could be. Izuku tensed up and Momo understood what he was going to do as she looked him in the eyes without saying a word. He understood what she said. Izuku teleported outside in front of the teachers when before them appeared a group of mysterious people. These 9 mysterious people who now were in front of the pro heroes emitting a pressure that they seemed godlike. Beerus. Hello heroes, I am the god Odd Destruction Beerus. I seek Izuku Midoriya. Izuku. I am Izuku Midoriya. Beerus. Excellent, now let's not waste any more time since you knew of our arrival. The pros were confused as to how Izuku knew of their arrival. Many of the heroes were confused and wanted to know what was happening. All Might. Excuse me Beerus, but can you explain what's going on? Beerus. Whis, would you mind? Whis. Well, you see, the people before you are known in this history as the Limit Breakers. Aw. The Limit Breakers are in children's fairy tales. I didn't think they actually existed. Whis. Allow me to introduce Gohan, Piccolo, Trunks, Goku, Vegeta, Krillin and Master Roshi. I am Whis, the personal assistant and teacher to the God of Destruction. Izuku. What are we going to do? Gohan. We've come here to train you to prepare for a major battle that will most likely shake the foundation of this world balance. All Might. What do you mean world balance? Beerus. He means the balance between good and evil. As the mood then got serious due to the mention of a battle to come. Izawa. Beerus, God of Destruction, would it be possible to train all of us? Beerus. It's possible, but none of you will be able to do what Izuku could do. The best we can do is help you strengthen your bodies and quirks. Izawa. If possible, we'll need all the help we could get. If this battle is supposed to tip the balance of good and evil, we'll need our students ready if we require backup. Beerus. Fair enough, bring them out here and we'll head to a special training ground. As everyone from Wano was gathered outside, the pressure they felt was even greater when up close to the source. Then they were all teleported to a lookout area in the sky. Piccolo took Class 1 and the teachers to one part of the lookout in order to train them. Izuku was taken by Beerus, Whis, Goku, Vegeta, Krillin, Trunks and Roshi to train. They took him to what they called the hyperbolic time chamber. Goku. Alright, this is a hyperbolic time chamber we will spend one day training. The thing about the hyperbolic time chamber is the fact that one day within the chamber is a full year. Are you ready? Izuku. Yes, I'm ready. Meanwhile, on the ground. After the incident at the training camp, many of the pro heroes expected there to be more activity. As many pros and sidekicks patrolled the entire city, it was awfully quiet. This didn't happen very often. Many of the pros and sidekicks had a strange feeling in the pit of their stomachs that something big was going to happen, but they just didn't know it yet. In an abandoned warehouse. All for one. Shigaraki, please make contact with Overhaul because he will be one of the major players in this game. Also bring Frieza, we will match some massive army the likes of which the heroes have never seen. Shigaraki. Yes, Sensei, I'll get to it. Back at the lookout. Moments before Izuku entered the hyperbolic time chamber with the Saiyans. The classmates which respected Izuku wished them good luck and hoped that he emerged far more powerful than he already is. Momo put a hand on his shoulder and gave him a kiss before he underwent his training. Goku. Is she your sweetheart? Izuku. Yeah, she means everything to me. Krillin. Then shall be the key to activate your other Saiyan forms. Izuku. Shall be the key. Goku. Yes, if you picture her getting hurt or killed, your anger will boil, allowing you to tap into the power to protect her. Now let's head in. Chapter 17. The students of Class 1 have begun training to prepare for any unexpected surprises. All the Saiyans and the God of Destruction went into the hyperbolic time chamber to train Izuku. Piccolo was in charge of training everyone else, and he was merciless. He told them that pain is only the weakness which leaves the body. Everyone continues to push themselves beyond the limit. After a few hours of training have passed, everyone feels a massive amount of pressure emitting from the hyperbolic time chamber. It was almost as powerful as when the Saiyans arrived. Within the hyperbolic time chamber, Izuku was receiving intense group combat training while learning how to fight 4 people at the same time. During this, Izuku learned to hold the first Super Saiyan form. After getting a feel for the power boost that came with it, his next step was getting comfortable holding the power. Goku. Alright Izuku, your job is to hold this power until it feels natural to hold it, like if it was your regular form. Izuku. Okay. Izuku was currently in Super Saiyan form, but all of his Kai would flare up, making him more powerful. Once the power stabilized, it felt normal to Izuku. Goku. Great job. When we leave this time chamber you'll be a year older and the pressure around you will be great. Gohan. Well, we take a quick breather. Tell us about how you tapped into the Saiyan bloodline. Vegeta. Exactly boy, tell us how, because one does not simply become a Saiyan. Izuku. It all started on day after I came home from school. I thought everything was okay. I noticed the door to my home opened and there was a villain trying to take my mother. When I rushed him, I was in a villain hideout. There I came face to face with a villain known as All for One. Within seconds I was defeated. The Saiyans and God of Destruction listened to this story, hoping to find how he channeled the Saiyan bloodline. Gohan. Continue please. Izuku. After losing, they tortured me. They wanted to turn me evil, but my spirit wouldn't break, so they killed my mother in front of me. Once they did, they used a quirk to allow me to see every dimension, only to have me see friends and loved ones slaughtered before me. In one dimension I was a Saiyan. All memories and skills from previous dimensions were passed on to me. Everyone was shocked to hear his story, but they were surprised that as he continued to tell his story, his anger grew, only for him to ascend to Super Saiyan 2. The pressure that was coming from him was extraordinary. Outside on the lookout. Everyone who was training suddenly felt to their knees, as if they were being pushed down by an invisible force. Piccolo felt the massive power that came from the direction of the time chamber. He knew it was from Izuku. As if the pressure was gone, everyone stood up again, wondering what was about to happen. Only time would tell, so they continued to train for the whole day. Back in the chamber. The timer set for the hyperbolic time chamber was almost done. Izuku was now comfortable in his Super Saiyan form. It was now time for rest. Izuku would learn to maintain his new form while asleep. At the lookout. It was now nightfall. Everyone was relaxing after a hard day's worth of training. Many felt vast improvement in their quirks. As everyone relaxed, Momo herself couldn't help but glance at the door to the hyperbolic time chamber, wondering if Izuku would be out soon. Piccolo. Alright everybody, I suggest you go to sleep now. Tomorrow's training will be harder than today's. Time skip. As the nightfall came and went, training resumed again at 5 AM. Many were still sore from the previous day. Before training could begin, a door could be heard opening, as all members of Wanna and the heroes who were with them turned and saw Izuku Midoriya, but he was completely different. As Izuku stepped out of the chamber, his face seemed a little more mature. Instead of his usual green hair, it glowed golden as it shimmered in the sun. Momo ran to Izuku as they embraced. She took into account his muscles and slight changes. Momo. Izuku, you look different. Izuku. Yes, I've learned to control the power I tapped into during the training camp. Izuku was about to walk into the chamber again before he was stopped by Piccolo. Piccolo. The hyperbolic time chamber has a limit to its use per person, so wait a day, then you can go back in. Izuku. Thanks, what can I do for now? Boku. Everyone should take a full recovery day and set up a hero headquarters in the dorms so we can have constant reports of villain activity. Izuku held Momo closely as they instant transmission to the dorm entrance. Everyone else was brought back with Beerus and the Saiyans. Once everyone was at the dorms, the hero headquarters was established and reports of silence disturbed them greatly. Izuku began to remember what had happened before the USJ attack. Everything grew quiet for a while, then the day of the attack came. Izuku. I believe the big fight is almost at our doorstep. Everyone stopped to look at Izuku, confused as he said big fight. All might. Care to elaborate on that, young Midoriya? Izuku. The villains who escaped during the training camp probably informed their leader. That being said, they're more than likely trying to gather a massive army for an all-out war. The thought of this made a shiver crawl down everyone's spine, knowing that they will have to fight in a war to survive. Haminari. Wait, we have the limit breakers, they'll help us with this war, right? Beerus. Sorry, not possible because we're already dead. Everyone was shocked to hear that the limit breakers were dead. Izuku. How are you here then? Boku. We have been waiting for the return of a limit breaker. Other limit breakers can contact each other through dreams. Izuku, since you're the last one, we've stored enough energy for 5 days in order to meet and train you. Izuku. What happens when the 5 days are up? Boku. Our spirits will return where we came from until we can gather more energy to make the journey here again. We're using the hyperbolic time chamber to get quick results. Now everyone take today to rest. Tomorrow is another day and you'll all be in the time chamber. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.